Ukraine. It's just like things got liquidated. Hardest part is how we actually got. Oh my! Get yourself! No, you take that fucking thing. You should have that off to the camera. We said white boys. We said white would fucking work.
Oh, boys and girls.
I am so right now. Oh my god. Yes! We got two.
Yeah. I mean, they need to get a little bit bigger, but that one is a dang good start. Woo. When it's prom night, I like to, oh gosh. When it's prom night, I like to take fat girls to the dance.
And I promise, guys, I'm shaking because I'm excited, not because I'm relapsing. Let's go.
Another one. It's prom night, and we're taking all the big girls dancing.
Yeah, boy.
Do you fish? No. You know, people who don't fish think that fishing is lazy or boring, but it is the complete opposite. There are 100 little decisions to be made, variables to be considered, and you're never quite sure what made the difference. Did I cast too high, too far to the left? Did I reel it in too slow or too fast? Is the lure too shiny or too dull? Do I stay here or should I go over there? And you know it's not luck, but you do not know by how much. Because I am never disappointed out here, because I don't expect anything, because anything is possible. I can be hopeful out here, even in failure. Because I know if I just go out there around that tree, it might be different. Something might be different. Something I do might make a difference.
Hell yeah! Angler's choice, baby! Johnny Moore's, White River, Ranger, Triton, Nitro! Let's go, baby! Woo!
What the hell is even that? You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know.
Don't know what happened there, guys. Sorry about that. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Monday Night Live. This is the last Monday Night Live of March. This is a couple weeks late. I really wanted to do a Occoquan Reservoir episode after I had the chance to fish them, and I was like, I'm gonna be able to make the last one in March. I really thought so. Then I realized I also had a confrontation with plans I made with my wife that I forgot about until the last minute, so that's on me. So I decided to do it now, I guess after the last one of March. So if I'm not mistaken, there's 2 a month basically all the way through until the classic that'll be held in the fall. So we are 2 down already. For the very first one, and if I was a really good host of a show, I would have actually done some prep work and not have made an intro to the weights from the previous one. But the very first one of the year, we had Jackson and Aldermerman. This is why for the guests, I make sure I know how to pronounce names for, but Aldermerman, 35.6 ounces. That's what won. 35 pounds, 6 ounces won the first Occoquan Reservoir tournament. And then I know it took over 30 to win this second one. And so we're going to have a couple of guests in here probably circling out through the night just to really talk about this reservoir, because you hear about places and a friend will tell you oh, this place is really good. This is interesting. And, I'm blessed with the platform that I have is I get a few people that say we should try this place out. Ever since I started this show, everyone's talked about Occoquan is so good, Occoquan is so good. But it's I don't have a boat. It's a big lake, relatively big for electric motor only, or a 9.9 size motor. And I have a Ranger. But I really want a trolling motor around the place. Lake Frederick in Winchester feels kind of big for my boat when I'm trying to get around. It's I don't really want to do it. And finally, my friends convinced me. I did it. My God, that place, it's really good. I don't know how to say it, but it's it can humble you, but you can truly have some of the best days of your life on the water. And this first person I'm going to have on here, I met him actually the first tournament of the year a couple weeks ago. Really, really cool dude. Stephan Nessumi. I really hope I pronounced that right. I am 0 for 6 right now. Stephan, how are you doing today, sir?
Good. How's it going? It's actually Stephan, but it's all good. That was close enough.
Damn it. I am 0 for 6. Chat, you are already killing me. I love it.
Hey, it's all good.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's an honor. Actually, when I discovered your channel, a while back, I've been following you since. And I've been seeing familiar faces. You interview here on your channel, and it's nice to see those familiar faces and share knowledge and get that wealth of knowledge from others. So it's been really nice following your channel. So when you messaged me saying, hey, you want to come on? I was like, of course, I'm not gonna deny that. I might not have the wealth of information that others, but I always like to network with people and share, so.
I think what's interesting about Occoquan Reservoir, I was listening to a couple of Joe Rogan episodes this past weekend, and it's the fact they talk about like how you get these comedy clubs, and it's so funny like how you get all this talent at this little small place that you wouldn't know about. In a couple of years, you're like, oh crap, these are like Chappelle, Louis C.K. It's crazy. Occoquan Reservoir is kind of like that for the fishing community. There are so many hammers that fish the tournaments there, and unless you go there, you'd be like, holy shit, you're here, you're here, you're here. It's nuts.
Yeah. Like, I mean, for years I've been following social media with a lot of those guys, and I've been meeting them in person also throughout the years, fishing the reservoir. And I'll see, and also talking to them, but I'll see also when they post those bags. And I've been to some of the weigh-ins, but when they post those bags, and I mean, it's been like that even before Live Scope got really popular in like 2019 with everybody. Even before then, they were bringing back like close to 30-pound bags and over 30-pound bags. So I've always looked up to those guys, and I was always like, how do they just go out there almost like every Sunday they have a tournament, and it's like guaranteed they're going to bring back these heavy fish, and it's like I'm always trying to figure out how can I do that as well. So yeah, I'm with you on that. It's the Occoquan Reservoir is definitely a place like that. It's like kind of like you got that small niche community of fishermen who just they've been fishing it for a while, and they know how to fish it. So and I'm trying to get there. I feel like I'm on that path getting to that point. But I definitely look up to those guys. Those are definitely people I look up to over the years. And like Thomas Alderman, for sure. Like he just won the club record, like you just mentioned earlier, with over 35 pounds. And I know it's of 6 fish, but it doesn't matter, right? Like if you do the average of each of those fish, it's over stupid. 5. So, I mean, it's insane. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely look up to those guys, for sure.
And and since we don't have any of the other guests here yet, I'm going to share the screen, guys, just so you can kind of get an idea for this weight. I think it's just better to do it this way, and that way everyone can have it. You can screenshot it if you're watching and you want to do that as well. Let's pull this up here. So, example, Alderman Jackson, they had, I'll probably make the screen a little bit bigger here for you guys. But they had an absolutely redonkulous amount of weight. Oh, what happened there? There we go. All right. So 35 pounds, 6 ounces or 60 ounces. Follow that up with a 22. And this is what I talked about. And we're going to get into this too today. But then you have, I have no idea how to do that last name without Roop and Roop, I guess, brothers. 20 pounds.
Yep.
I did again. Yeah, I got one right. 20 pounds first tourney, but then you back it up with 35. Mick Jesus and Titus, they had 21. Then they followed up with a disappointing second place with 33. So it's interesting, like this place, it's almost like humbling you is like 15 to 20 pounds, but anywhere else in the world, that's like really good.
Yeah. It could even put you in the top of anywhere else. But yeah, good point. Even like was yesterday when I was fishing it, I didn't have hardly any bites, just until the end, I finally started getting on them and I got that one good one. But I mean, on the other days, of course, when I'm fishing, I'd be catching them. But like I said, yeah, it can definitely be humbling for sure, even for those guys the top dogs who were making the standings, so it can be really tough. But on those good days, like you said, like even when I met you, it can be magical. It can be an amazing place.
How did you get involved with Fountainhead? I mean, are you from this area originally?
Yeah, so I grew up actually on Lake Barton in Burke. So Burke is here in Fairfax County, which is actually just maybe 15 minutes from the reservoir, from Fountainhead. So I grew up on a small neighborhood lake just down the street from the reservoir. And I mean, ever since I was a little kid, I loved fishing, just being on the lake. That was kind of like, it just came kind of part of my lifestyle. So, I'd be catfishing, fishing for panfish, but, I won't give my whole life story or anything. I won't bore anybody with that, and I promise this will lead to the reservoir. But there was one day when I was in my early 20s, and this young kid, I was out fishing, and I saw this one young kid. He caught like a 3.5-pound bass, and that was bigger than any bass I ever caught out there at that lake. And so then I really became obsessed. I was like, my goal was to always catch like that biggest bass in the lake, and in any lake that I fished. So I had like kind of like that trophy chaser mindset. And then before I even moved off that lake, they ended up dredging that lake, which is, for people who don't know, like neighborhood lakes, they have to basically like dig it out and to keep it deep, so that it doesn't shallow over. So that just like ruined the fishing back then. And so I would go and hop around other neighborhood lakes, like Lake Braddock is really well known. People have caught like double digits back in the day in there.
Wow.
And Lake Royal, which was really great fishing when I started fishing there. So I ended up meeting a really great friend of mine now. His name is James Higgins. He's really popular here in Nova and in the fishing community here in general. He also used to run the Dreadneck YouTube fishing channel. So I met him at Lake Royal, and it was kind of one of those things where, like, you know, and like sometimes you meet somebody and you're like, you don't get along at first, and you're kind of like, I don't know. Well, we ended up becoming like best friends, right? So it's kind of like one of those cases. And he ended up, him and his girl ended up moving to the reservoir, and he'd be messaging me like, hey man, like I'm having a hard time fishing here, like, you know. So I said, hey, let's fish it together. So we would just go on the banks and fish it, and I'm saying, hey, this is not working, we need a boat. So then I ended up getting a 14-foot John boat, like an older one, because I didn't have that much money at the time. And so just saved up for like a small John boat to get out on the water. It was a 1436. So so people who don't know, that's like 14 foot long and 36 inches wide. So it was wobbly. It's really narrow. 36 inches wide. That's like 3 feet. But we made it work for 2 years, and it leaked. But James and I and some other friends that I brought out on it, we made it work with just the trolling motor, and we ended up getting on some good fish. James, I think, even caught his PB on my boat of like almost 7 pounds, or a little over 7 pounds there.
Wow.
Which he's really happy about. But, you know, even just over those couple years, we realized this is still not going to work. I mean, we need something better. For which then I ended up, you know, getting rid of that boat and saving a little more money, for which I got that 2001 Bass Tracker, which I've been fixing up, and finally got it all really nice. That's the boat you saw me in last week during the tournament. So, you know, I just been fixing that up. I got like new carpet, new trolling motor, new electronics on it, you know, with live scope, new seats, new wiring. And so I've been using that. But the one thing I've realized is that was another mistake, was because, you know, it has a 50 horsepower on the back. And so for a while I was still stuck with a trolling motor. So no matter where I launch, whether it be Fountainhead, whether it be like Who's Run or anywhere on the reservoir, you know, because it's a 9.9 restricted lake, I couldn't go far, and I'd always be worried, well, am I going to make it back to launch if I even did go far, right? So that's why I decided to finally this winter get a kicker motor, for which I now put on the tracker, so now I can fish the reservoir the right way, which I should have done years ago, but everything has its time, right?
Out of curiosity, why did you keep the 50 versus like trading the 50 in for a 9?
You know, I love the river. I used to fish the river a lot, and I just didn't want to take the speed away from the river, you know. But it's funny now, in hindsight, thinking about it and really talking to friends, and also realizing I'm probably the slowest at launching out of these tournaments. And now that I've realized, I'm probably thinking about, I'm going to go ahead and take the 50 off and move the 25 over to the middle, or maybe just save up for a John boat and have like a John boat rig and just move the 25 onto that John boat. Because I know that having that 50 now and competing at the Fountainhead Bass Club, having that 50 on with all that weight and trying to move, I'm going like 7.5 miles an hour. So it's a handicap. I don't think that's what's the biggest handicap, but it's definitely handicapping me to a certain extent. Everybody's moving and beating me and my partner to the points and stuff. So, but I've definitely have to do something about that kind of soon. So I'll have to make a decision what to do with that 50 horsepower.
It's hard because you almost do, again, guys, like, you know, don't tell your wives this, but you need 2 boats. You do need a res boat specifically, and then something, because it is a tale of 2 crazy things, where you have like Occoquan Reservoir, then you have the tidal Potomac, which is an ocean. Like, it's 2 extremes.
Yep. And I realized also when I got that tracker, I was like stuck in the middle, like, especially when, you know, I'm a trophy chaser, but now in the recent years, I was trying to become more of a competitor mindset and type of fisherman. And I realized even that was another mistake, was, you know, 50 horsepower, that's fast, but it's still not, it's not good enough for the big tournaments on the river, right? With those guys with the 250s, but it's also too big for now the Fountainhead Bass Club tournaments out on the reservoir. So I was like kind of stuck in between. It's like too big for these, too small for that. So I was like, you know what, let me just get a 9.9, put it on the side and call it a day for now. For which, I mean, yeah, it's definitely getting me around and I can fish the reservoir the right way, but I need more speed, and I have the need for speed. So
what are the Burke Lakes like? Like the other lakes in Northern Virginia that you mentioned earlier. I mean, I remember when my aunt used to live in Reston, we would go fish some of those lakes. Are they still have fishing opportunities there, like you said, or is that like when you spoke of them earlier? Was that more of like in the past?
Yeah, no, definitely. Even I know friends who still fish them now. They'll hop on the boat with me, but sometimes we'll go fish the bank, and they'll text me saying, "Hey, I'm at Lake Braddock, or I'm here at Lake Audubon in Reston, and I just caught a mondo." So I mean, there's still good fishing there. There's still good fishing, and I now that you brought up those Reston lakes, I love them. Lake Audubon specifically, I caught my second trophy out of there.
Really? Wow.
So I have a special place there. I like Audubon, and all 4 of the lakes in Reston are really good.
Do you have to have like a
figure it out at the
permit?
time?
Do you have to have a permit or something? Like, say, if you're a kid that's listening to this thing now, is that like a lake that you have to get special permission to fish any of those, or can you go fishing?
Yeah, if you're on a boat, you're supposed to either be with somebody, or they're supposed to have like a pass, like a neighborhood pass on the boat. But fishing the bank is totally fine. You can just go fish the bank. There.
We got so many questions here. I'm going to make sure we get to them all right now, guys. We got and Degenerate Fisherman kind of asked this already or answered this already, but I'll put it up here. Shane Flynn Outdoor says, how long does it take to run the length of the res with a 9.9?
Not long at all. I mean, like a true 9.9 and on a John boat, like a 14-foot John boat, less than an hour. You can make it probably from one end to another.
Wow, that's really awesome. And then let's see here.
It's like a little over 2,000 acres, if I remember. It's like 2,100 acres. It winds in and out. The only thing is, if you're trying to make it from one end to the other, there's going to be a lot of obstacles. And what those obstacles are, there's going to be those crew members. There's a lot of high school and college crew teams out there. And sometimes you're just going to have to like slow down to either not wake them, or you're going to have to kind of like wind back and forth, like so that you don't go too close to them. So that's probably going to slow you down from going from one end to another. But straight shot, probably less than an hour.
It is the most weird dynamic where that lake is used as a glorified swimming pool for a sport I don't think anyone gives a shit about. Putting it out there. Don't know any kids that I grew up with that was their college scholarship was through rowing, but it is what it is.
I'll tell you, Thomas, it's crazy. I know Mike Fisher, who runs the Fountainhead Bass Club tournaments. I just heard recently that, or I learned recently that he tries to make the tournaments on the off days, like on days that they don't run those, like, I guess they're called regattas, like those tournaments or races that they have with those crew members. But I mean, really any other day that I fish out there, which is pretty much every day, they're out there and they're loud. They're not just in the way, but if you want some peace and quiet, you're probably not going to get much of it there unless you're at one end or the other. So like if you're at Who's Run, like that end of the lake, the crew members, their lanes end there by the dam. So like pretty much from the dam on through Who's Run and all the way to that end, you'll have some like peace and quiet. And also like the Bull Run end. So like up lake at the opposite end of the reservoir, like if you launch out of the marina and go right, you'll stay away from the crew members as well. And there's miles of fishing up there. I have a lot of history up there too. I used to hike there after high school, like all the time, just fishing from the bank. There's smallmouth up there too.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And that's one question.
I was gonna say the first tournament I ever did, because this isn't the first time I ran with the guys in the Fountainhead Bass Club. This is the first time I'm actually just committing to a full season. But I've done the tournaments before, and I remember the first tournament I ever ran with the guys. I brought a smallmouth back to the weigh-in, and everyone's like, "Whoa!" But I heard it's actually kind of a usual. Usually, there's like a couple that bring back to the weigh-in at the Fountainhead Bass Club. Smallmouth.
And one question I know that we're going to be getting in the comment section at some point or on the re-upload is about like the 9.9 restriction, all that. I'm going to get somebody on from the DWR or the road team or something, because I am confused about that too. Why one lake could be 1,000 acres and you can use an outboard, and another lake is like a 9.9, then another lake is electric. Like, it's all confusing as hell to me. So I'm going to try to get somebody on from the state to explain, like, how do you make these decisions? Because that's all I want to know is, like, is there a decision that's put through that we can use for each lake, or is it literally they close their eyes and throw a dart at the board and say, like, this one's going to be 9.9 restricted? Because the Baltimore lakes, yeah.
I mean, I've been thinking it's like with the like again, not to bring it back to the crew members, but yeah, I think it really is because of them. It's just like residential, and you have so many like high school teams. Like every high school in Nova crew team practices and has their races, I think, out there on the reservoir. So they don't want people speeding because, you know, it's really windy. I mean, it's just, if you look at the reservoir from the map, it just S's the whole time. So I don't think they want people speeding past the corners and then, all of a sudden there's a crew member, and it's just unsafe for people. I mean, that's what I'm assuming, but I would like to know too, Thomas, you know.
It's frustrating because it's just here it is. Oh, Shane's hit my go button. Drinking water reservoirs don't allow gas motors. You're right, except astronauts piss in their suits, and that works too. I think the say for drinking water is the biggest excuse that for your health you don't allow something. You can 100, like Smith Mountain Lake is used for water. Claytor Lake is used for water. These are massive reservoirs that you have engines in, and you can still run the outboard. I do not believe it's just that. It's something else. There's so many lakes that are big enough that you can filter out. I truly think there's something else there. Just my thoughts, though.
Like I was even wondering, like, why Hunting Run Reservoir? Why is that electric only, or Mooney? They're pretty big. You can have a 9.9 on there, but I don't know. It might be residential.
Especially Mooney. I think Mooney is like, especially if you guys have been to Mooney, it's very open at the base where the boat ramp is. So it's not even like, you could make an argument that you need a 9.9 restriction at the res because it's so snaky. You don't want a collision. That's a better argument than just the drinking water. Mooney is very open. Like, it would be harder to turn a corner at Mooney and then hit somebody coming around the other way. Yeah. That's just my opinion. Degenerate Angler, Occoquan Reservoir is used for drinking water and allows gas. And I know that's awesome. Again, that's my whole point about this, and this is what I'll find out. This is my big thing for this year, is to figure that out, because like I just want some clarity on like how all these rules are figured out. John says, "Hey Mike, you need to get out there, swim bait guys wreck G shop." I think I said that message right. We will be having a swim bait guy on eventually. I think he's mowing his grass right now. I kid you not. We're going to be figuring that out as well. Let's see. Now, yeah. Phil said he's coming. He's got 2 more passes on the lawnmower, and he wants to give his man some time in the spotlight. I'm reading the message verbatim right now. Ride. Yeah. So, with that said, I did meet you out on the lake. You're there a bunch. Like, explain to people that have never been to the reservoir a cliff note of the lake. Is it kind of like no structure, no docks, rocky and clear? Is it dirty with timber? Like, what is it?
Really what I love about it is it's a mix of almost everything. So, you'll have flats, you'll have grass ledges and like grass on the side of the banks. And then you'll have those deep rock bluffs where those grass edges can meet as well. Those are really good areas. And then you'll have like those creeks and coves and like the mouths of those creeks where like fallen timber has, fallen around those mouths of those creeks, which are really good. And especially when they're around those like secondary points and main points as well. I mean, it's like a mix of everything. And then, so like the up lake, you got Bull Run side. It gets really shallow. So you have like the main creek that goes through it. And on both sides of I shouldn't say creek, it's the channel. And on both sides of the channel, you have like huge flats, which is actually a really good time this year during pre-spawn and spawn. And then you go opposite. If you go down lake towards like Fountainhead and past Fountainhead, like Lake Ridge Marina, and then towards the dam, I mean, we're talking almost 70 feet. I've marked, I think 69 feet near the dam is the deepest. So, I mean, it's so versatile. And then even near the dam, you have like even near the dam in that whole like Who's Run area and Lake Ridge area, you'll have like shallows and ledges that come up to like shallow flats that you can fish. And some of them will have grass and then some won't. Some will have like just fallen timber, and then you create structure where the fish love. So in the tournament, like yesterday, for example, like I was just running a spinner bait through some of that, and you'll just see big ones like follow on the scope, which I ended up landing that nice one on a extra large spinner bait from Juan Duran. Actually, he's a big guy on the reservoir. But yeah, it's real versatile, and it's not really like, mostly rocks or mostly flats or anything. It's almost like you can get a mix of everything. So if like you decide, hey, you know what, I'm trying to fish some grass today, and I really think that the bass are going to be up in the grass or more of the shallows, like you can like focus on that and plan out your area. Like, okay, this has more of the grass. I'm going to kind of fish this area. But yeah, I hope that answers that.
It did, and it is a beautiful lake. And the only thing it really lacks, like as it's been stated, is like it doesn't have a dock pattern like a Lake Anna or a Normandy or something like that. But it's a beautiful lake, and there's a ton of bait. Like I don't think, unless you've been out there a lot, and scoped it or just saw it with your eyes. I'm blessed. I do have scope, and you just scan real quick and you're like, good Lord, there's so much bait in this lake.
Literally millions, like whether on side scan, down scan, the scope. And what I've noticed is in those areas that have like just tons of bait, and it's just constant when you're side scanning or you're scoping around and you just see it's just like a whole like line of bait basically on the thermocline or wherever they're deciding to be. I've noticed that actually those type of areas I try to stay away from. Like I'll still fish them a little bit. I may catch some, but I feel like that sometimes will handicap you if you're fishing around too much bait. But yeah, you're right. The res is just filled with bait, which can be like a good thing, but then it can also be, I feel like a bad thing. Like my style of fishing is I like to fish more of like around where it's not like millions of bait in main lake and coming into like the coves. So I try to fish a little bit away from that, where bait is a little bit more limited. So I don't know what the bass think, but I would assume that they are going to bite more where bait is less. But yeah,
I think that is an interesting thing because I know so many professional anglers have different viewpoints on that. But I think generically speaking, their view is if it is clouds of bait, you got to get out of there because it's just too much.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And you really do see that at certain points of the lake. It's just absolutely insane. This comment here has me baffled, so I'm going to share it. Maybe someone else knows. O2H02, October 22nd, 25. 1987, following the annual meeting of the Clay Minerals Society. And does anyone understand what that means? Please let me know, boss. If you want to like add more to that, that's code that I have no idea what you're talking about there. I apologize. So before we bring in Boyd Duckett,
87, so I don't know.
Before we bring in Boyd Duckett Jr., it looks like he's off his motor and Russ Hamilton, bring this up here. Russ says, Phil shouldn't drink and mow at the same time. He's able to do multiple things. What were some of the baits that you used that really got it done for you the first tournament and the second tournament?
Well, so this season, actually, so far, the first tournament, nothing. Me and my partner, I didn't get much. My partner, he got 4 and he ended up getting them on spinner bait, some top water, like right here, buzz bait. He got it on a single one, but I use double. I like using double.
Why?
And we were throwing glides, but nothing. But I know that a lot of guys in the Fountainhead Club, the first tournament and the second tournament, they got some really good ones on the glides. We were throwing them, but tourney days I didn't get any. But of course, on the off tourney days, I got them on the glides as well. But so yesterday, I got a nice one. So I got some really nice follows on the spinner bait on this really large size 15.
Holy Lord, man.
I think it's like the biggest blade that they make. I can't find
that looks like a flutter spoon.
Let's see. There you go. Yeah, so I got that off Juan Duran. That's a Jackal Megalodon or Megalo.
That makes sense if it's Megalodon.
yeah, Megalo spinner bait. But basically, I mean, I just like throwing spinner baits in general during this time of year and in fall. I just love the way they look. I feel like they just really trigger those fish to follow. I mean, the scope proved it. The graphing is proving it. And then I caught that nice like 4.5 pounder, which, really made my day because we were having a tough time yesterday. My partner didn't get any bites and I wasn't getting any bites either. And just until the very end, and then got some follows and landed that nice one on this huge spinner bait. The camera really doesn't even do this justice. I mean, this is like bigger than my hand.
Dude, the amount of people that are now, this is what they want. All right, so we got like 2 or 3 people. We got Chris. What spinner bait are you throwing? And then Shane says, I need one of these now. Yeah,
that's
I need one of those.
That's a Jackal Megalo spinner bait. It's probably the best to get them off like JDM, like, Japanese tackle specific websites. If anybody's interested, you can just message me and I'll send you a link or something. But I actually ended up getting that off Juan Duran, he's really good at the fisherman. He's one of the guys that I look up to on the res. He was with actually Matt McCluskey, I believe, when McCluskey caught the potential crappie, a state record crappie out of the reservoir as well. But yeah, I got that off Juan, and when I caught that nice one at the tournament, which I know it's not much. It's it's nothing compared to the other guys, but I was proud of it. And then I had to message Juan. I was like, hey man, I got a nice one off your spinner bait. So that was really awesome. But you know, also what I like to throw, and I haven't, again, you know, on the off days, I'll catch them on glides, but of course on tourney day yesterday, I didn't catch any, but I love to throw these big glides. So this is by Fish Everything. So Victor Depp, he has the Fish Everything brand. I know this is kind of like beating a dead horse on your channel, but this
let's beat it again. I have, speaking of the dead.
Yep. Oh, here we go. Yeah. With Phil. Yep. From Fish Everything. And so this one is great. I also throw, I really like the bull shad, trick shad as well. So they're shorter. This is 7.5 inch, but the Fish
You're gonna
Everything
get some hate mail for that one.
Say again.
You might get some hate mail from that one, but it's okay. I'll back up on that.
I mean, hey, it
Phil's here, by the way, everyone.
Say again.
Phil, every other word is going in and out, boss.
Yeah, no good service. So yeah, but Phil, you don't have good service, I think. But people who know me, they know that I'm really big into swim baits. Like my favorite type of fishing for bass is using big swim baits, and I'm talking like 7-inch plus. So, but you know, the backstory also on this is the Taxi Shad 10, which I think now the mold has, Victor Depp's mold has shrunk. So he told me it's more of like a 9-inch now. But there's the backstory on this. I love this. I don't know if they've even talked about this on your channel yet, Thomas, but you know, maybe about a year ago or a little over, Matt Streichel from SB Fishing, YouTube channel, which guys, if you don't know that, definitely subscribe to SB Fishing. He's like the epitome of fishing YouTube channels. But Matt Streichel was out, I think, with his brother Ace, and they ended up catching the reservoir record. It was like 9.5 pounds or so on like a chatterbait or something. And it was during a tournament, and they brought it back to the Fountainhead ramp to weigh in, released it there. That's what we all do. We just released the fish there at the ramp. And but too much later, Matt Streichel ended up catching that same fish in the same spot as well. So he compared the pictures. He was like, by golly, that's the same fish.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always loved that story. Like, that's always stuck in my head. Like, you know, fish instinct is just incredible. Like, just miles away, they can just go back to the same spot and just know where to go. It just blows my mind. But the backstory though on this bait is just real quick, is just not long ago, maybe a few weeks ago, Victor Depp, the maker of this bait, was out there with his friend, and they caught that same lake record, and it was their first time being on the Occoquan Reservoir. So I just love that story. And it was on this bait, the Taxi Shad.
That poor fish has been caught so many times. It's just
3 that we know of. I guess
at
3 that
least.
we know of so far. So,
all right, joining us live from the back of a cop car, Phil. How you doing?
Russ was right. For some reason, I think I used a bunch of my data today when I was sitting in those classes because I just could not get reception in my shop. So we're gonna rock with this.
You better now.
Yeah, you sound really good. You have so many questions though. First one, Phil, is oh shit, is that a PDJR? And then Phil is sponsored by Coors Light, right?
You know, there's nothing on paper, but in my heart, yes.
He needs to be riding a lawnmower, drinking at the same time for 8 hours. That's the best sponsor you can get.
Who started that rumor? Because I was not drinking on the lawnmower. Although
I just made it up. I don't know.
And you know, it is fun. It is real fun when you got to mow for 8 hours. Did I pass my test? I did pass my test. It wasn't a test. It was just watching mind-numbing safety videos about, you know, team lifting and lockout, tag out. So
does that mean the ankle bracelet finally comes off?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. There we go. Just in time for our next tournament. Let's go.
Yep. You can still throw glide baits with an ankle bracelet.
How's that not a shirt?
All right.
Oh my gosh.
You guys are going to be at the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'm going. I couldn't make all of them just with scheduling. I think there's like 15. There's a lot, guys. If you don't know, if you're listening to this, there's a few tournaments. I think it's like 2 a month until what, September, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
believe so.
30 of them to make the classic,
you have to fish 30 of them.
and you have to do well enough.
So that's basically, that's what they say, and that's kind of like the rule. But I've come to learn that like there's so many people that just drop out that you can make the classic just fishing like a few tourneys sometimes. Like it's like my partner was just explaining that to me the other day, how there was this one season he didn't fish that many tournaments, they didn't have that much weight, they still made the classic. So I mean, so like the first tournament there was a 23 boat show out, and then there's already dropped down to 16 in the second one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, was trying to be there, but it just Thomas had anniversary stuff.
Yeah, I
was looking
can't.
for you guys.
I'm not famous enough yet that I can actually get out of wife stuff. Sorry, guys.
We got to get you famous enough then.
What was my thought? Shit, I had a thought. Oh, we were talking about glide baits, and I thought that was a really good segue to go from one individual to the guy who, I mean, I think you have close to 50,000 views on my Instagram, at least, from that insane catch. I put it in the intro to this one, Phil. You had one on this bait, just nuke it at the boat. Like, that was a special day, wasn't it?
Did I leave it in? Is that the one that you bought, or did I leave that?
Yes,
bait in
I bought it. You're
okay. I didn't. No, I didn't see the eye. At first, when you brought it by, it looked like the one that I was fishing that doesn't have the eyes on it. I just realized I left those baits in my other vehicle, but what a day!
Yeah, you want to talk about it?
Use all 10 pixels of it.
Use all 10 pixels of your audio right now to talk about that day, because it was that one of the best swim bait tournament days you've had.
Oh, yeah, the best one for sure. Tournament? Oh, not even close. I mean, if you can get 4 or 5 bites like that in a day, fishing the big stuff like here, and first time on the body of water, stuck to the trolling motor, no practice, and just going out and fishing. I mean, just fishing instinct, and based on what you and I knew the fish should be doing this time of year, like, that's, for Virginia, that's really good.
Yeah.
I would say that as a handicap we should add to that is Phil and I woke up, I went to bed at midnight, and I got up at 4, rolled out of bed, never fished this place before. Phil shows up. He's never fished this place before. We have a boat and a trolling motor, and just a trolling motor. And and we were late, I think, to launch our boat too, because I had to go take a dump. Yeah. So it was
I was there at 5. Like, I was watching people roll in. I was like, oh, Thomas will get here.
I did. But yeah, for us to roll in there and do that was pretty incredible. And honestly, to watch you work that bait, it does remind me again, and I've said this before, and I think this confirms it. It reminds me of the old school jig bites. And when I was fishing high school, I had that one old guy in the club that smoked a lot. He was like, Tom, all you got to do is lock a jig in your hand, because if you get 5, you're going to be cashing a check. And it's basically that. Watching you that thing, you got 5 bites, and we were so close to cashing a check.
I was impressed. Cool. When I pulled up next to you guys, and you were like, how'd you do? And I said, nada. And you guys, well, we got a 5 bag. I was like, nice. I mean, we had 4 fish, but I think we made 19th place. But you guys did great. I was proud of you. I mean, that's my home lake, and you guys came for your first time and really did well. Impressed me. So that was good for you guys, man.
Phil.
Yeah, the stars kind of really aligned.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it's not just that. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say now one of us need to make top 3 one day.
God, no, that's not gonna happen.
Oh, it will. Hey, you got to put it out there in the universe. It's gonna happen.
If we can hit a couple more before post spawn, maybe even we could do it post spawn too. I mean, it could definitely happen.
I, I feel
Summer,
pretty good when the bite gets tough. I think I feel it's so funny because like we talked about this on the boat, Phil. Like I am very much like I have no problem feeling like I can fill out a limit every day. It's gonna be probably 10 pounds, but I'll catch 6.
Mm.
You're my big home run hitter where you feel like if you don't catch a 10 pounder, it was a bad day on the water.
Go big or go home, yeah, type deal. Yeah.
well, it's even before I fished swim baits, I was always that guy when I was fishing with my buddy Cam. Every single time, he would be the one to catch 10, and I would catch 2 or 3, but they were bigger than 90, 95, 100% of his fish. Like, it's just how it worked every time. I've always been like that. And so that's been kind of like my deal with tournaments is like I've been getting back into the conventional a lot more, trying to apply things I've learned throwing the big baits and stuff and things I've seen, and get better at filling out that bag and getting those bites. But I didn't have to the other day because Thomas had me. He got a bunch of fish in the boat real quick on the swim jig,
Hell yeah.
and I was able to just lock that thing in my hand and go to work and not even think about it. So that was super nice.
And,
That's
and what was
awesome.
interesting is there was 2 that really worked for me. The one is in the boat still, so I didn't have that, which is the California No Jack Dirty Jig Swim Jig, and I put a 5.5 Kitech white on it. It was a white trailer with I think it's the crappie or the shad color. It's the white and like with the specks. That's the one I threw, and then I also paired it up with the Bastrix one. This is a Bastrix hollow belly with a 5/16 ounce bluegill colored one. I just feel way more confident throwing this in a spinnerbait or a chatterbait behind people. And going into this tournament, everyone and their brother said a spinnerbait works. And I get very, I don't know, like on the spectrum that if everyone's doing one thing, I want to do the opposite. And
Yeah.
I just had more confidence I could fish behind people and have success. The one thing that was interesting is we got to live stream that day on the water. And it was funny going back and watching it and seeing the comments that would pop up. There were people that were like, oh, never fish this bank here because it's going to suck. Only high percentage areas. And so we went to this back of the pocket. It's straight across from the boat ramp. Everyone knows what we're talking about. You had all the nice stuff on the left, and then you had this boring bank on the right. And so I hit purposely the boring bank first, and we smoked 2 right off the bat. And it just is interesting when you only have a trolling motor, you're going to end up fishing everything. And I think that helped Phil and I out a little bit, that because we fished the moment so much, we were able to kind of dial in where those fish were. And Phil, you can talk to this too. The swim bait bite actually evolved over the day, didn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, we saw a complete 180 in conditions from the first half of the day to the second. Like it was like clockwork. Like it was like 12 o'clock hit. We started out, we launched. It was complete cloud cover, a little windy. Really nice morning for getting a big one. It felt good, and I think, once again, if we would have had that motor, we might have been able to capitalize a little bit more. But we did well. You got the limit. I got 2 fish in the boat in the morning, and
The bite
I guess
died.
I'll go talk about the switch made, and I'm still not sure how much that color switch like really made a difference, but I feel like it did because I know Vic was throwing straight bone all day and caught him all day long. But at least for me, for confidence thing, it definitely did help. But yeah, in the morning, I'd started off with, man, I wish I had it, but it's a natural color painted taxi shad, 10-inch. It's like a green gizzard color, and just throwing that around. Thomas was getting his streaming equipment set up and rigging up all his tackle at the same time, so I'm running the boat.
That's about right.
And I pulled into this ditch at the very end of the mouth of this creek. It leads back into a spawning flat, and I didn't really see anything on live scope. I was like, I know there's got to be there's some fish in here somewhere sitting here on the end. I threw that thing out there, and sure enough, this blob comes up and just and comes right up on it, and I'm working it. And it's just on it. That was a big fish.
That's awesome.
Didn't hit it. And we just keep pulling back into this cove, into this flat, and Thomas finally gets all his stuff together, and he starts throwing his swim jig around, catching fish. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just keep. I threw around a spinnerbait for a little bit, but he was doing so well on the swim jig, like, why even bother? So I picked the big bait back up, and we come around the corner and out onto this little main lake flat that's got a bunch of random wood on it. And I made a color switch. I switched from that natural color to an all bone one that I had. And I'd never even swam it before. I had made it as like a backup back in the fall when I was going to Anna a bunch, and never test swam it or anything. And it's like, yeah, I don't even know if this is gonna swim through or not. Sure enough, it swam good. And it was like, I don't know, 5 casts later, Thomas has the video. I smoked literally right beside the boat. I was like, okay, here we go. And then sure enough, we come around, the wind's blowing on everything, just perfect. Everything's tingling. God, this is good. Something's gonna happen. And bomb out like over 18 foot of water off this main lake point. Jump, 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 jump. Got smoked like clockwork. And that was, and so we're rolling at this point. Thomas is freaking out.
Yes.
He's never seen.
I saw how he is when you catch him.
I get very emotional.
It's good footage.
Awesome.
And that's how I get too. I'm like screaming when I catch a good one, or I need a high five. Give me something,
Yeah.
Got to. That's when I was like, this is good. We're gonna do something here. And then
it was crazy. And then just want to let everyone know, joining us also here is Matt Allen. We got McCluskey right here. He's on the far left. So
not anymore.
Oh my God, you shaved. What happened?
Yeah. Well, we didn't do too good in the first tournament, so we had to switch something up.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to add this. Hunter, here you go. Hunter, you're in real quick. Say hi.
What up,
and
dog?
Hunter.
Oh my God, he's at the show.
Goodbye, Hunter. Okay.
He's at a concert now.
Oh, okay.
So we got a question here back on the fishing thing. What's the water clarity on the res like? Clear, muddy, or extra muddy?
In general, it's like on average, like on a good day, it's probably up to 2 feet, 3 feet. But recently, it's been pretty muddy. I mean, yesterday it was actually clearer than I thought it would be because of all that rain we got. It's been pretty muddy recently, so it doesn't really affect my fishing. I actually like more muddy water sometimes anyway, so especially this time of year.
What is your favorite? Go ahead.
No, it's pretty muddy. Like Stephan was saying, I mean, it's to everybody's surprise. Yesterday morning, we all got to the ramp. And we're like, oh my God, you can see more than a foot. So it was pretty surprising, but yeah, it's been pretty muddy.
Yeah.
Well, Well, Matt, what did you think about your performance? I mean, you finally, I know it's not up to your standards of second place with 30 plus pounds, but
I mean, dude, 30 pounds. I don't care what place we got. It was a fun day, and it was a good redemption from the first one. I mean, the first one we still had 21, but it was just, I don't know, just couldn't get it together. It was a frustrating day. Made bad decisions, had bad timing. Felt like we were fishing behind people. And like this tournament, I didn't see a boat until 11 o'clock. So it just everything clicked yesterday.
You talked about redemption. Is it because of the weight you caught, or is it because of the decision you made? If you made the decisions the way you did and you caught 20 pounds, like you made the decisions exactly the way you wanted to and you caught that same weight, would you be saying that? Or is it specifically just because you caught 21 pounds, therefore the day was bad? If that makes sense.
Both. It's both. I mean, I feel like if we had executed and made good decisions with the fish that were biting the first day, like this last tournament, we could have had more weight. And it just, I mean, you can't be disappointed with 21 pounds. It's Fountainhead, so it's a little different, but it's, I don't know. It just, it was just unsettling driving home. But
for you, McCluskey, yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, it's just, I saw 2 7-pounders get caught right in front of me on the first tournament. So it was pretty devastating. And doing the same stuff we were doing. It's like everybody's going down the bank with a spinnerbait and a chatterbait and a whatever, flipping, and we're doing the same shit. It's just couldn't get it going. So it was just frustrating. But
all right.
It's all good.
We have a spicy comment here from John Hudgens, I think. Matt and Alex have made a concentrated effort to exploit water above Fountainhead.
100%. I mean, it's just we wanted to go down like yesterday, but we were one of the last boats to go out, and there goes 8 boats down lake. I was like, let's just fish around here for a little bit.
I was wondering if that was you. I was like, because I told Jim, my partner, I was like, I think that's McCluskey over there, because I'm the slowest boat, so I'm behind everybody, and I'm used to you going up. I mean, I'm used to you going down lake with everybody. So I was like, huh, that's odd.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, we have a pretty slow boat too. I mean, we're able to get on plane after like a half mile of running, but it's just like, I didn't see. That's part of the reason we messed up in the first tournament, got out of the comfort zone. So I was like, let's just stay around here and get settled, and then go up lake a little bit. And then as we went up lake, the water got considerably muddier. So we just spent pretty much the majority of the day within a mile of the ramp.
That's what Phil and I thought. That was our strategy going into it, honestly. Like,
man. Like,
let's not drop the hammer.
You had so many options of places to run.
We have a Oh my God. Johnny has a great question here. And we were talking about this on our private chat earlier today, is why doesn't Fountainhead not let you put in a bass boat?
So that, I think, let me back up on that one. They do let you put in a bass boat. There was, unless somebody recently was denied, but a little bit after the pandemic happened, there was like new management there that they started denying any bass boat there, even if they said, hey, I'm only going to use trolling motor, because they ended up denying me, and I had to go turn around and go launch somewhere else a few times. But to my knowledge, I mean, I've been launching there even before I put my 9.9 kicker on. I've been launching there quite frequently, just fine. And I've been talking to the people who work there. So I think that kind of, there was like a year or so, they were not letting people with bass boats that didn't have a 9.9 on there. They weren't letting them launch, but I think you're good to go now.
Phil,
I had a buddy that went there the other day. He's got a 21-foot Express with a 250 Yamaha on the back, and they were like, nah. So they had to drive to the other ramp.
Yeah, I think day kind of thing. But
I'm pulling the Gambler up there Friday, and I think I'm just going to pull the prop off. And if somebody says something, I'm going to be like, look, what am I going to do? Like, fire up my prop motor and ruin my lower unit? Like,
that's a smart idea, actually. Yeah, just go up there, no problem. Maybe. I mean, I can. Yeah.
You're
I was
also
say you probably are good to go. I mean, you might be there on an off day, but probably not. Sorry, Thomas, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, but you're also depending that the people that are looking at the boat understand how any of that works. So I don't know. Some of these people that manage these places have no clue.
I'm not driving 2 hours to not be able to launch my boat.
You'll be
figure
fine.
out something.
Did you say you're going tomorrow, Phil?
Friday.
Oh, Friday. Okay, because I'm gonna be out there with Cilla tomorrow. My original tournament partner is Cilla, but she had to get carpal tunnel surgery on her hand, so that's why she wasn't with me the first few. But she's gonna come out tomorrow to try to practice with me, and hopefully we'll be there in the next tournament.
Oh, is Cilla gonna with you?
Yeah, she's my original partner. Yeah.
Oh, dang, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's also where I keep my boat, which is like really convenient.
Wait, where does Cilla live?
So she lives like 5 minutes from Bull Run Marina. So that's why like after work, I'll just like head, because I keep my boat at her place. So I'll just like head to her place right after work, because I get off at like 3:30. Head straight to her place. So I'm there by like 4. I get to like launch on the reservoir by like 4:15, you know, at Bull Run Marina. And I'll launch at like the Who's Run launch too, near my friend James's place as well, that I was mentioning earlier. But
that's like really 5 cool.
Minutes. Yeah, it's real convenient. So she's a great friend for letting me do that.
She catches them.
Yeah, that's why I was like, hey, you interested in doing the Fountainhead Bass Club tournaments with me? And she was like, hell yeah. But it was unfortunate. She just had to get surgery on her hand, but she's going to come out with me tomorrow, and she said she's going to try to brace and just practice with me and see how it goes. So I'm hoping that it's going to go well, and then she can join me. I think April 7th is the next tournament in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Huge shout out to her. I've had her on the show, I think once. I've had her on the show a couple of times. It's starting to get together. She also did the live stream. That's what it was for the kayak show. We have on Instagram, StreamYard. Could you get your shit together so I can share Instagram comments? But we have not Seth Fishing Boy, not Seth Fish Boy. I'm following Phil across the lake all day.
That's a good idea.
Because he's going to catch them all.
And then we have another question on here. McCluskey, that's boring. We'll just call you McRib. What is your favorite baits to throw this time of year?
I mean, Megabass Vision 110+1 is definitely at the top of the list. Oh, you need the +1 though.
No, I got the +1 and the +2. No worries.
No, yeah, that one's definitely top of the list for me. But spinnerbait, chatterbait, flat-sided crankbait, or square bill in general was good, but this year I can't buy a bite on a crankbait. Flipping, Alex was wrecking them on a jig in the morning yesterday. That about covers. I mean, Alabama rig sometimes this time of year normally it's good, but just with the muddy water and where the fish are all in, not where you need to throw an Alabama rig. So.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, Thomas, you were talking earlier about like you love to throw the swim jig when you're coming in behind somebody and like fishing a spot behind people, and you feel like that's like your confident bait. Yeah, comfort bait or whatever. Like I was gonna say, so mine that I go to, even though I'm like a really big bait kind of guy and I love swim baits, you know, I do use small stuff and as well. But this time of year, I don't really go with like, you know, soft plastics much. And I like Cincos or anything, but if I am going to use a soft plastic, I like these like small paddle tails. These are
Kitex.
The Easy Shiner 3-inch. They also come in like a 2.5-inch as well, I think. And I think even Strikel came out with a video not long ago, you know, using these in winter and catching them as well. But he uses a ball head mustad hook, so it's kind of like almost like a Demiki rig style. But I like to use these core tackle. They're called tush hooks. So they're called like this. It stands for the ultimate swim bait hook. So if you guys see here, I know maybe some of you already know about this, but for those of you who don't, it's like a lead. The lead is going down a certain way, the hook. So the lead will go inside the actual swim bait or the little, whatever you want to call it. And so it swims differently. So instead of having just like the paddle move to swim, the whole body of the bait is going to like wobble back and forth. So that lead being designed like that kind of gives it like a different, unique style of fishing that I feel like the fish still haven't seen much of yet. So They also come out with that hover rig, which I love in the summer. I don't catch much on the res with that, but I think I just need to practice more with it. But the hover rig by Core Tackle, I've definitely been enjoying as well. But yeah, this time of year, if I'm throwing anything soft plastic, it'll just be like something like this. I'm just like slow roll it or medium retrieve, like 7:3:1 gear ratio. But other than that, they're all like hard, like plastic jerk baits, swim baits, spinner bait, kind of like what McCluskey was just saying.
Yeah, and this place has like an ungodly amount of wood, and so when you're fishing stuff like I think I broke off like 2 crankbaits when I was trying to throw crankbaits there, which I lost all my bandits, my good colored bandits too, which really sucks for the Potomac River. But that's why I went with like the swim jig, and this is not like my bluegill imitator. Like I don't know, just for like reference here, like this is a big ass one because it's a weedless swim bait is all a swim jig is. And so if you're thinking about a swim jig, I think you think about the Potomac River and how you fish it there. A swim jig in a lake is completely different, I think, how you fish it. It's just a slow bottom bumping thing. And when you break away from cover, you just let it glide down. And I think what happens is just like with the glide, they're sharking it and it hits something and then they're going to slackline you is generally how that works there. But again, like, yeah, you can really fish your strengths there, which is interesting. I just wonder, do fish get conditioned? Because when I have 7 people come up to me and it's like, it's that red kicker spinner bait or whatever. And it's like, well, at some point those fish, I mean, unless it's SB's 9-pounder, because that thing's retarded as hell, has been caught like 9 times, but eventually they're going to get conditioned to these things, right? Like, I don't know.
I don't think so.
I'm not so sure. I don't.
There's a nation of 5-pounders in that lake that is nothing like I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, a spinner bait like that and like a specific color type thing is usually for a specific condition. Like we've this year, the first couple of tournaments have been an anomaly with what the water clarity looks like, the water temperature, where the fish are. Like, you can throw that in a normal spring and still catch fish, but when they're really keyed on something, I feel like it kind of just goes in cycles. Like next year, they might not bite that particular bait. Bait good, but that doesn't mean they're conditioned to it. It just means they don't want to eat it.
That's kind of my mindset too. Like that's what I think as well. I'm not so sure it's like a human driven thing that's like affecting them. I think it's just they don't want that type of that bait right now. They're wanting something else. They're in a different type of behavior, and depending on so many other variables like environment and weather, all that type of stuff. So
I also add to that more as like adding to it than taking away from it, as it looks like. There you go, Phil. Thank you. I think it's like they can get conditioned to vibration. You saw this a lot with like lipless baits on the Potomac. I know this is like a very like niche specific example, but if everyone's throwing a 1-knocker, it doesn't take long for those fish to be like, I am not hitting anything that sounds like that shit, because it hurts when I bite that thing. And I wonder with that, and then we got Russ again. Could you? This was the thing of the show, honestly. Could you show off that Megalodon spinnerbait again?
Yeah, that was wild.
I mean, it looks like a flutter spoon that you just hot wire onto the spinnerbait.
Well, he fishes a place that has fish in it that will eat that, and way bigger baits.
Yeah, I mean the fish yesterday. I mean, he wasn't the great 4.5 pounder. That did make my day, but I'm gonna catch another even bigger one on it. I'm gonna keep throwing it. I only untied it to show it on the show, but it's going right back online, right?
Do you use a stinger hook on that or trailer?
I don't. No, it actually. So it came with a stinger hook. They come with like a feather stinger hook, but it casted like right off 3rd cast or something like that. But McCluskey, this is from Juan. Actually, this is from Juan Duran.
I was listening while I was driving.
Oh yeah.
Juan's always got the sneaky JDM stuff, and
yeah,
show me so many baits. I'm like, that just looks so weird, and I take him out, and he catches a 5-pounder on it. It's like, okay,
exactly. For those who asked, so this is a size 15 spinner blade. So again, the camera is not doing it justice, but you can. I mean, it doesn't have to be the jack. Like this is the Jackal, but I think any big blade spinner baits. Like I think burrowstackle.com, they sell up to like size 9 or 10. I used to get those, like the gold and the silver willows. And so I would switch out my blades in spring and fall on just like a regular 1 ounce or even 1/4 ounce spinnerbait. I'd switch out the willow blade on it and put like a huge blade, and you can just feel the pull in the water. which I think really attracts the fish at certain times. They need that pull, especially also murky water when, you know, the res is not the clearest. It's known as a more murky place compared to others. So, and especially after it rains, it's going to be just all blown out. Like having those huge blades, you know, I mean, yeah, I fish those swim baits a lot, but having these huge blades just like really draws those big bass in, I feel. So yeah, look into size 15.
Hey, how does this place affect you now that I've seen it and I've seen, you know, heaven? How does it affect you when you go to places like, you know, and I make the joke that with that blade there, it's basically the size of all the fish we catch up here on the Ohio River, which is the Upper Potomac. I get conditioned, and I see everyone says like the Ned rig, Tom's through a Ned rig all day, which you're not completely off on that. You get used to fishing that way. And when you go from like, I'm used to dinking and dunking for a bunch of 12 inchers to this, it's shocking. But on the flip side, if you're throwing a spoon that looks like the shrapnel tip for a 50 caliber round, how does that play when you're like, I have to go to Lake Anna now? Do you have to really change the way your mind works when you go to places that aren't this awesome fishery?
Totally. And I don't mean to cut in between Matt or Phil, but like I do some tournaments on. I do some tournaments actually on Lake Anna with my friend Curtis, like the Sunday morning series, sometimes like in the summer and the fall as well. And I don't really do well there, but coming from like that mindset, yeah, like I'll make sure that I have like 9 rods on the boat sometimes there, pretty much every style, you know, tied on, so that I try to figure out what the fish are wanting there at the time. So, I mean, as to answer your question, is I kind of go in with an open mindset and just try to figure it out from there. Yeah.
Do you, all of you, I mean, Phil, I know that you're all you throw is baits that are over 12 inches, but for Mr. McCluskey, and you already stated like your thoughts on it. Do you feel like you have to pare down your viewpoint on things and you're like, all right, well, this place doesn't have all 6-pounders, so I need to dial it back? Or do you still try to play it?
I mean, you have to be realistic where you go. I mean, where you most places you know kind of the caliber of fish you're fishing for. There's a lot of places around us that have the same caliber, just not as many. But yeah, I mean, I went fishing this afternoon. I got back down. Oh no, did I cut out?
No, you're here now. You're still there.
Yeah, I went to a place just outside of Roanoke, and it's a deep, clear reservoir, and I caught some nice fish, but it wasn't like. You just have to be realistic. Like a 3-pounder is a good fish, but on Fountainhead, you do not want that in your live well at the end of the day.
Does that make you more depressed? You know, like how rock stars become like suicidal and drug addicts because they can't get the high of being on stage. Like if you're not fishing Fountainhead, do you feel like you got to chase that high somewhere else? Like fishing is just not the same.
No, it's just still fishing. I mean, we're all just chasing a little tiny green fish, so it doesn't matter where you do it. But I mean, it's just. It's special. So, I mean, like I said, you just have to be realistic. Like going to Anna, I know that I'm probably not going to catch as many fish. I mean, Anna's got big fish and you can have awesome days out there, but I mean, you're probably not going to go catch 20 fish over 3 pounds.
After watching that live stream again, when I was editing out some of the gamer words that were used by me, I really realized like one thing that made that so special is it was like a 25-pound bag. And with everything I've dealt with, that is a big bag, even if it was 6 fish. And Phil, and the way when you caught that absolute kicker, Phil, you called your shot on that tree while I was screwing with the camera. It's still a big bag. And then you come into weigh-in and somebody's like, yawn, we have 48 or some crazy ass number.
Mm-hmm.
It's still insane to think that we caught that amount of weight. And maybe you get numb to it. And I think that's the thing that's almost like depressing about this place is some of the guys are always in the top. It's like, yeah, it's 30 pounds. It's no big deal. That's only an 8. You know, come on. It's like, holy shit.
It's still a big deal. I mean, an 8-pounder, 7-pounder, whatever. It's still a big deal. Like,
oh, it's only 2 7s, like whatever, you know.
Somebody weighed in a 7. The guy who won weighed in a 770 and like a 699, and the rest were all 5 pounds. It's like the 3 of the top 4 biggest bags weighed in Fountainhead history got weighed in the last 2 weeks.
When we started the show, and then don't worry, guys, we're going to be talking about, I'm going to get to all your questions here before we end the show. When you look at this with like the teams, I'm going to pull this up, I guess, just to reshare this for everyone. Here we go. It's interesting, like the swings, like you know, with Jackson and Alderman, you know, 35, you're going to 22, 20 to 35. You guys 21 to 33, 28 to like. What's missing usually in these days? Is it just one bite, or is it just a pattern difference? Is it because they just pattern?
Yeah. Oh God. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's pattern difference. I mean, it's just not getting that one key bite that keys you in on something, and then you miss it for the rest of the day.
Phil, what do you think?
Don't ask me. We came in and made something happen one time. I can't speak against. I don't know. I don't want to. I just sound like a lawyer.
No, I mean, I think you know more than you let on. I mean, yeah, you do the whole Shane, I drink Budweiser thing, but you look like Bob Ross on the front of that boat with this retarded thing. And by the way, has your friend retired yet with how many of these fucking things he sold for that lake? I mean, good Lord.
No. Much money.
I think he sold a couple more yesterday.
Yeah, didn't you get a new boat?
Yeah, it got an Express.
Oh, that was his boat.
Yeah. Yeah. No, not my other buddies. My other buddy's got a brand new 21-foot Express, but Vic got a 18-foot white Express with had a ram. It's sick.
Like electric motor or something? Was it an electric motor? Like in the back? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he's got to keep slinging them baits.
I wonder if they're going to get conditioned to these glide baits ever too. Like I still say that because I think eventually these bigger fish got to get conditioned to something. Bigger fish in general. We got so many questions here. Oh,
I don't think they will.
No,
I don't think they do, because we've fishing those reservoirs up around Baltimore with Vic. It's the same every year. And he's been fishing those places with a glide bait way more, fishing them way harder than most people fish conventional for years now. I don't know.
And I think it's more like what Matt was saying. I mean, this is all just theory, right? But just kind of like what Matt McCluskey was just saying. I really do believe it's more of environmental conditions that would change a bass's behavior and the way they feed more than just, somebody's baits coming in the water. But what do we know? I mean, it's fun to talk about these theories, but I'm definitely I feel like it's they don't really condition. I mean, unless you have a pet bass in an aquarium and you're really have, hang on top of it. Other than that, I think it's more of an environmental, conditions that are really changed up these variables for the way they feed.
I think if something is very sound based. Oh, I'm sorry, Phil. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was having a conversation about that with my muskie fishing buddy the other day, and of course this is muskies and they're totally different creatures, but a lot of stuff still applies. It's every year there's 1 or 3 baits that just do better, and nobody knows why. Sam Scott couldn't tell you why. They just last year on the Shenandoah, the bucktail just worked better.
Yep.
For some reason, and that's the most thrown muskie bait of all time. It just worked. Nobody knows why. It just worked. And this year it might be the single piece glide or whatever. So I think there's things that we may never really know that kind of dictate those bites.
I tend to think when it has something that affects their lateral line more than anything else, it's easier for a quote unquote conditioning to happen. And I just see this with smallmouth. I fished so many smallmouth my whole life in clear water where they will analyze the shit out of something before making a decision. And so they're making thoughts there. And muskies are that way too. They're visual predators. And I think a bait like this, where it's got the profile of what they want to eat, and you can make this thing look like it's something they want to eat. It's a lot harder for them to get conditioned, quote unquote. But if it is a jackhammer, a whopper plopper, a lipless bait, where they hear that thing for a long time coming at them, I think there is a potential where they do get pressured by it. Not just the one bait, but this blew my mind when I was fishing BFLs and ABAs out of Mattawoman, and everyone would be slinging a lipless bait. This is before the jackhammer, the chatterbait took off. And you could feel when everything just got pushed down. Now, could that be because of the boat pressure? 100%. When you have 38 boats throwing rattle traps, and it probably sounds like Vietnam with all the choppers going off over their head, it has to do something to their lateral line where they know, I shouldn't eat right now. And that's when you started to see the jackhammer chatterbait really kick off. When you saw silent stuff, like silent lipless baits, really kick off. I don't know. That's just my thought there. It's something to do with the lateral line and how it feels hitting them, and they kind of cue into maybe that's not what they want to do. But I love to hear people in the comment section too about that as well. Let's see.
Yeah, I was gonna say I never even thought of it that way, and you kind of just opened up my mind about that. I've never even thought of it that way, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, I don't think you guys even know I'm a behavior analyst. That's what I do for work. I analyze behavior, but I work with children with special needs and people with disabilities. But being a behavior analyst, I've come to analyze behavior of just everything throughout my environment and in my life. And really what you kind of just said, Thomas, just makes sense because, I mean, the fish, they're just fish and their brains are probably about the size of a pea. But if you think about it, they're still engaging in behavior because they're either being reinforced for it or they're not engaging in behavior because they're being punished for it, if that makes sense. So if the fish is a good quality fish, so let's say because bass, we know they grow pretty slowly. So if a bass has been around for 5-6 years, I mean, it's going to be in its teens, 17 inches or so. So that bass probably, I'm sure, has gotten attuned to some maybe certain vibrations and sounds at a certain point. And if it keeps being caught, every time it hears that, and then it's being caught and being pulled out of the water and whatever it's feeling, it's not being reinforced for it being caught, right? It's being punished for it being caught. So I think over time, if it's going to still be caught over and over with that same vibration, it may be learning. It may learn to okay, you know what, that means punishment and not reinforcement. So coming from a behavior analyst type of point of view, you totally made sense. So good theory.
And I also, the reason that I really feel this more now than ever before is when I went out with Matt Allen, McCluskey, and he shined the cancer ray at so many fish and the bigger ones would turn. There was a reaction. And he even talked when we were smallmouth fishing up, I think it was at Riverton. Riverton's a lot shallower than where I fish on the upper Potomac at Big Slack. Big Slack, it's 20 and 30 feet of water, to where you can Demiki rig dead nuts underneath the boat. And if you're not doing that, you're not catching them. Riverton's not that deep. And I was getting my butt kicked trying to do the same thing. And he was like, well, they can feel that ray. Well, that's their lateral lines. So if they can feel the cancer beam, can they feel different baits that have that same kind of pulsing and get memorized to it? I don't know. Some interesting theories there with that. I know some people in the audience get bored with this stuff. So let's get to a better question. We got Andy. Andy says, what is everyone's PB? Go for it. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So I've actually caught my PB 3 times. So I've tied it twice. It's a 7-pound, 15 ounce. So 1 ounce away from 8 pounds, but I've caught 3 7-pound, 15 ounces. And yes, I've checked my scale. The scale was okay.
Let's go.
Oh my gosh.
You're next.
Me? So the biggest bass I've ever caught was in a private place, and it was 1056.
Was it a Bass Pro Shop aquarium?
No, I mean basically. But honestly, it was really tough the day we went. Actually, it was we didn't catch anything, and then I went with Billy.
Phil?
Oh no! Nope, there he is.
Oh, Matt, your audio went out. Refresh. We're gonna come back to your story here in a minute. Phil, you're up.
You got me now?
Yep, I got you now.
There. Sorry. No, but we didn't catch anything all day. And then Billy caught a 9-pounder. And then like 10 minutes later, I caught that big one. But the biggest one I've caught on public water, which is, I think it's my PB because it wasn't in a private place, but it was 10:02 or something like that.
That's freaking awesome. Phil?
That point is a zoo. I don't even know. I don't know what my PB is. It's like I have a curse of like not being able to break out of the high sixes, so I kind of stopped weighing fish. That I wish I would have weighed that one in the tournament. I don't think it went 7, but it was getting up there. But yeah, it's like really high 6. I've caught like an 8-pounder in Florida, but that doesn't count.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest was almost 9 pounds. It was about 9 pounds from Sleater's Lake.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah,
5 or 6. I was young. I was like 17, and yeah, that one was. I saw a bigger one there too, and that's when I got into the swim bait thing. I didn't do glides. I got into like the bluegill stuff, and so like the rod that Phil broke of mine was not Phil. It was Phil's bait. It was it's called Matt Lures, I guess, and they make custom bluegill stuff. And I had one that looked like a submarine come up to it and turn away. Never got him to eat, but good. Yep.
Well, this is the Matt Lures meathead. It's not the bluegill, but I love Matt Lures swim baits. But I know the gill that you're talking about. This is one I was going to showcase today. Actually, a wake bait. When the water is over 50 degrees on the Occoquan Reservoir, if it's in its 50s, I'll throw like a wake bait below the surface. But yeah, Matt Lures is good.
Dude, that's deadly. And I like to also take and there's something there. I did this with the Buka one too, is you take a Sharpie, the chartreuse, and really Sharpie that tail a little bit. Because this is what I do like with if I'm doing like a bluegill swim jig, it's just to get those tips to have that color to them, because I don't know why chartreuse turns like bluish in the water, but it does depending on the water you're fishing. And bluegill have that like hue of like yellow or blue on the tip of the tail. And so putting that on like a bluegill swim bait or even a wake bait, for some reason, it just gives them something else to like key in on to start sharking the bait for you. So that's a neat little tip there as well.
Yeah, I do that as well. There's like the garlic pens. They have the garlic. I have like garlic markers, and then they also have garlic dip. You just get it at Walmart. Just dip the little paddle tail in it, and whenever you use a paddle tail.
How did you get into fishing and psychoanalysis? Because is this the room that you teach kids in? Because there's a lot of dead animals in it.
No, actually, so I used to work with children with special needs, like in their homes, and I just do like it's called applied behavioral analysis, basically the science of behavior. So I'd be giving behavior therapy sessions to children with special needs and autism, just helping them have better lives, basically. And actually, it's funny because one of like my best friends from fishing, it was his girlfriend who was a behavior analyst, saw that how good I was like working with kids, introduced me to the world of special education. So it was actually through fishing that I ended up having a career of working with children with special needs. But yeah, I used to work with them in their homes, but now I work in the school system. So I work for the Fairfax County Public Schools. Hey, no, actually, I love it. I'm loving it because, working with kids in their homes, I'd have to wait till they got out after school. So it'd be like 3:30 to like 9 p.m. like when I wanted to go fishing, right? So it was hard. But now that I switched to the school system, I'm off by like 3:30 p.m. It's great. It gives me like all that time to go fishing. I'm not married. I don't have kids.
You are living the life. Marriage is not always what it's cracked up to be, but anyway, yeah, she's not listening to this. Agreed, Thomas. They can be conditioned to the vibration. The lateral line is one of the key receptors, especially in murky water. 100%. I want to get through all these because we've been doing. Dave Smith, Dave, I need to get you back on the show. He's got the best crankbait collection, in God's earth. I don't know what that first word is there. So we're gonna go
the Balthuses.
Thank you. The Balthasars team had 29.95 last week, and all 6 were caught by a 15-year-old.
Glide bait.
And he caught them all on a big swim bait.
That's freaking awesome.
That kid is a stick.
That's
Yeah,
all.
you're talking about Wyatt.
Yeah, Wyatt.
Such a great freaking lake. I got Jeremy again. Sorry, my comment cut off. I was saying we have some great electric only small impoundments in Southwest Virginia that have some big ones. 100%. And then also, I think one of the longest episodes I've done in a while is about, I think it was like 3 hours, but I cut it down to like 2.5 with Chaz, who just won the Alpha Elite Solo on Kerr. And we talked about for about 30 minutes all the lakes down in the Norfolk area. We really need to get somebody on just to specifically talk about them because there's so many cool lakes down there that you could fish. It's just so hard because you just need specific boats. And like, again, like one reason that took me so long to fish Fountainhead myself is I do have a Ranger, and it just kind of, I feel like Lake Frederick can sometimes be too big for just an electric motor, like a trolling motor to sit on the front of your deck. But it's such a great lake. I see why people buy a boat specifically for it. It's so addicting. Let's see, getting through all these questions here. How much for the person's name that I apologize, but I will not try to pronounce because I do have disabilities. How much does the colors matter?
Yeah. So you're saying how much does color matter?
Yes.
I believe it can matter on some days and some days not. Like, you know, on finicky days, like a color change does make a difference. Or if you're throwing a certain color, that's what's gonna trigger the bites. And then some days I feel like color doesn't matter. So it's just so variable. I don't know if
I made Phil sit on a mountaintop and think about God because of a color thing that happened with us. I think for smallmouth and spotted bass, it's 100% like the shit. It has to be color. Largemouth, I'm kind of like, if I didn't see that 15-pounder just come up to his bait and roll over it, I wouldn't have been as much of a big deal about it. But he made the switch, and I thought it did matter.
It definitely seemed like it. Yeah, what I always say with color is basically what Stephan said: is it doesn't matter until it does. Like, which the part that I absolutely hate the most about it, because I hate switching baits and I hate the game of like trying to switch between different colors and figuring out what's working, what's not working. It just introduces so many more variables to your decision-making process.
it does.
But yeah. But the nice thing about the res is, you know, it's stays dirty and it's a little bit more forgiving than, you know, North Fork of the Shenandoah, where you can see the bottom of the river the entire way to Riverton.
Good point. Yeah, good point. I think that like the clearer the water, I think you need to start thinking about color more, right? Like, but yeah, with especially talking about the res, like focus of this show, as far as the reservoir, it's known as like a dirty place in general. So I think color is not so much a thing. But again, I on some days it is, like especially like those clear. So like if you go up lake near Bull Run where the water starts getting really clear, and you're talking about like those hot summer dog days, like I make sure I have like a right color jig, either the white or the black and blue with chartreuse, something like that. I don't just throw anything.
I think another thing that I've gotten to interview way more crappie guys this year. I'm actually kind of following the Richmond crappie circuit, and what's so interesting about them is before their mindset is before they switch the style of bait, they switch color first, and that's what I'm trying to do more this year. I kind of make a little list of things I want to do in that tournament. I switched my swim jig color a couple of times before I was going to go off of the swim jig, and I finally got the right color pattern with that sheet white one. And I think that's interesting that as fishermen, our mindset for a lot of anglers is I'm going to switch the bait before I switch the color. And that's such an interesting thing. It's like, if the chatterbait's not working, clearly I'm going to go to something else versus like, well, what if it's just the color scheme? That's the issue. I don't know. That's interesting. The guy, I recorded an episode, it hasn't dropped yet, with the guy that actually won the co-angler side on Smith Mountain Lake. And he was throwing a chatterbait and it was a white one. And it was like halfway through the day, it's like, it was glowing too much, he said in his head. And he switched to a green pumpkin one, and then he ended up catching I think it was like a 5-pound kicker. But in his head, he said like, it just looks too bright now. And instead of switching baits, he said like, well, jackhammers apparently catch big fish, so I want to stick with that. So he made the color switch, and immediately he was rewarded. I don't know. It's interesting when this stuff pops up, and then I think in my head, like, how many instances did I not probably do it correctly? Let's see. Oh, we got a great question for all the swim bait guys that I am not. Andrew Redding says, when do you choose to pick up a glide bait versus a hollow belly? If you're Phil, you never pick up a hollow belly. But anyway, thoughts?
I don't. I need to pick up the soft swim baits more. I
got you.
have a bunch, and I've caught really big fish on the South Fork on soft swim baits this time of year, doing specific things, but it's so hard for me to put that glide bait down because I know what I'm doing with it, and I know to throw it, and I know where to throw it, and I haven't never got the experience, really throwing hollow bellies or whatever, but I don't know, maybe McCluskey will be able to speak more on that. I'm really not the guy to talk about hollow bellies.
I mean, hollow belly. I mean, I've thrown it on the res. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking like legit hollow belly, I don't know if he's talking about just the soft plastic over a glide, but a hollow belly. I mean, I haven't really thrown them too much. I mean, I throw them in the summertime very rarely, but it's if we're talking just soft bodied swim baits, I mean, I like the glide more because it doesn't sink fast and you got more time to mess with it and mess with the fish if you're scoping. I mean, the 8-inch mag draft works great, and just bring them both.
I will say, if I know the fish are not wanting to come up off the bottom, then that is when I'll start to be like, okay, we need to throw something with a beast hook in it or a jig hook.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like I was thinking like I'm gonna look at my graphs and try to determine where is that bait fish, like are bait fish more towards the top of the column, and if so, that means the bass are probably going to be feeding towards the top. So wake bait, glide bait, and also another reason I don't really want to use like glide baits really much in the middle of the water column is because they're expensive and I don't want to get them stuck, right? So if I see bait like in the middle of the water column or towards the bottom, or even just bass in general, like, feeding towards the bottom or in the middle of the water column, I'll throw the soft plastic, not necessarily hollow body, but like I love like the Huddleston, just there's traditional Huddleston, one of those first swim baits from California, They've caught me, actually my best days I've had on the reservoir were with soft plastic Huddlestons. Sandy Run, I've caught like 2 6.5 pounders on the same day in April once. And I've had other amazing days with Huddleston soft plastic. So yeah, it depends. I think like for me to answer that question, it just depends where I think the bass are feeding. So again, more towards the top of the water column, I'll throw those hard body swim baits, but the bottom, if they're more in the middle or bottom, I'll throw soft.
This is something I actually have talent in, so I can talk to this a little bit. If you're fishing a legit just a swim bait and you're not doing a shad bite would be like you're just throwing it like a spinner bait and they're on the bottom. You're bottom bumping. You're taking that thing and you're engaging that reel and you're feeling every rock, every piece of gravel, every stump, and you're hitting it with it. Because you usually throw these things where you can't throw a crankbait because you're going to get too snagged up with stuff. And that's basically what a swim jig is, or just one with a beast hook like this. This is an American trash fish. You basically can't buy these anywhere because they're so hard to make. But you're going out there, and if they're not going to rise up on a mag draft or a glide, I'm going to throw, and I had a really nice one with Phil on the American trash fish, and I literally set the hook on it and he shot straight out of the damn water. But the thing was, I was counting every stupid tree and rock, and I hit one and it went slack off the ledge, and I held the rod down, held the rod up so it would just pendulum down, and then it never hit bottom. And when you're fishing a swim bait like this, whether it's with the beast hook or this big head here, you want that thing to be hitting on the bottom, and every time it hits, it quivers and the tail does something. And what I like to picture with it when I see them on the scope is they're kind of just sharking it on the bottom until it hits something and it has that secondary action, and then it'll flail and then they'll hit. And that's honestly what the underspin was supposed to do. People started to throw the underspin when you get away from this Carolina lakes, where you're just cranking it like a spinner bait. But in the Carolinas, what you're doing with that thing is you're casting that thing and it's on the bottom like this. And every time it hits, the blade will shine. And what will happen is when you go over a lip in like 20 feet of water, it'll fall down that ledge and then the blade will flutter. And so what you're doing is you're just hitting bottom. Every time you hit a rock, the blade will throw up some flash. They're sharking it. And then you go over that lip. And once it falls down that lip and that blade engages, you're going to get trucked by a spot. And so with all these baits, whether it's a blade or it has a skirt, or it's like an American trash fish with all these stupid like little pendulums and stuff, every time you hit something, it just creates that secondary action to it. And then that's when they're going to key in on and hit it because they're not active. If they were active, they would hit this or a mag draft because they're actually hunting. This stuff is you have to bang into something, you have to crawl it around there and try to get them to engage with you. That's at least my kind of view with it. But again, this is a 4-inch, which is stupid for the res. For ponds, it's great. I have some 9s that they actually make, American trash fish, that would probably work a little bit better. So I'm hoping to use those next time as well. So I don't know. Hopefully that answers the question.
Another two, Thomas, if I can add,
Go for it.
I just thought of, I ran into this and I couldn't tell you exactly why this happens, but like sometimes they'll be up shallow and active but they're not hitting the glide or whatever. But if you throw like that Huddleston, or one that I really like is the burrito gill, jig hook gill, burrito baits, check him out. He makes fantastic baits. Either that or there's another series of paddle tails I have in different sizes by a guy named Chad Yates that are not made anymore, that I have a severe stockpile on because they work really, really well.
I know what you're talking about.
Like yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Remember,
I know exactly what you're talking about because I make my own soft plastic baits too, and so I know Chad from the groups and stuff. So I think I know exactly what you're talking about. His baits.
Yeah, we call it the Huddleston, but yeah, you fish that thing like a spinnerbait up shallow, and it can get trucked like majorly.
These are some of the best swim bait guys around, so just make sure you listen to them. Let's see. And then again, we got 2 more questions. I think we kind of got them all. Oh, here it is.
So he's asking, what's the best budget-friendly glide bait? This is what I believe. It's $25. It's the 3D Shine glide bait by 6 cents. Or I'm sorry, Savage Gear. Savage Gear 3D Shine. It's caught me my PB, one of my PB. Like, remember, I caught my PB 3 times. So one of those 3 7-pound, 15-ounce, I've caught that on this, and it swims really great. And it comes in different colors as well. I love this golden shiner color, but yeah, this is the Savage Gear 3D Shine Glide. It's 7.5 inch, $25. I love it. It's one of my favorite.
And it's hard to go budget friendly. I mean, like these here, this is the river to sea. My God, my brain's shutting down. This is Phil's bait. This is Phil's secret bait. We'll just call it that. Buka makes the trick shad is decent. There's another one Buka makes. I forget. Phil was thinking, that right there. That worked pretty good for me. Another one Buka makes is absolute crap, I think. Phil, what was the name of that one that I was fishing that didn't move?
I don't know what it's called. It's
shit.
It's a newer one, and it's got an extremely tight joint. I don't know how you're supposed to fish it. I want to get that from you and mess with it.
Yeah, I as long as you do a review of it, that'd be funny.
You're not talking about the herring shad, are you? The herring shad?
I don't think so. I don't know. I can't keep up anymore.
I love the herring shad.
It's like a glide, but except the joint's tighter.
It's got a super. But I budget friendly. I started throwing swim baits with the S waiver, pretty much. The 200. I mean, I was actually, somebody hit me up. A guy I knew from a long time ago hit me up today, asking about glide baits, and I was telling him that's what got me into it. Was a local tackle shop that's not open anymore had some 168s, and I bought one and I started throwing it for smallmouth, and I saw things that changed my life. So,
Mm-hmm.
and also, if you're going to be throwing those for smallmouth, better have a parabolic rod, like a really parabolic rod, because otherwise it will throw that thing in a heartbeat. And I lost a tournament one time, lost by far the biggest smallmouth I've ever seen in my life. Just threw it right by the boat. It was so long, I thought it was a channel cat coming up to the boat.
Also, I will add to that, Phil. If you are a kayak guy, you must have a net when you're throwing treble hooks. I had a treb almost get me in the scrotum when I tried to just flip it into my lap with triple grip on a Bagley crankbait. Those things are insanely uncontrollable with treble hooks in their face, especially if you're in a kayak. So, yeah, net's important.
Heck.
We have go for it, Phil.
Fish tournament, you got to have a net if you're fishing a kayak tournament. If you're just fun fishing, it doesn't matter as much, but you got to have somewhere to put that fish to get all your shit situated so you can put it on the bump board and do all that nonsense.
Oh, we got so many. Okay, we got a couple more questions, guys, and then we're gonna have to end this. We said Andrew says, "Bless you, Matt." We have another one. We have Terrence 3027 on Instagram. Matt, what is your favorite jerkbait rod?
Dobbins 705 CB Fury. It's a $120 rod.
If you use Matt's link, he also gets some money off that. So make sure you use his special QR code. Ray Dalton, which glide is he talking about? The 168 something? Yeah.
River to Sea S-Waver 168. They have them on Tackle Warehouse. It's all over the place. They're not hard to find. They're pretty cheap. You can grab a couple of them. Light trout works really good. I would recommend getting like a light trout color, and then get one color that's like clear and it's got like kind of a silver blue back to it, and it's got a bunch of sparkles in it. That works really well. Colors, and tie it on your heavy crankbait rod with like 17-pound fluoro or whatever. You can co-poly and just go start throwing it.
We got another one here. Brandon Souls. We got Tom. You need to get a John boat. I need a John boat. I need a kayak, and I need a new bass boat. Oh, what did Matt say?
And a truck.
And a truck. My truck is dying too. Yeah, that is sad.
Wow.
Let's see.
Falls on the roof.
Russ is asking about that spinnerbait. Was it a 3/4 or 1 ounce?
My extra large spinnerbait that I was using.
Yeah.
It's actually 1.5 ounces.
Good Jesus, wept.
That's what I'm talking about. I need. What is it?
So
I can't.
Again, like you can do this to any spinnerbait. I mean, I used to take like 1 ounce spinnerbaits and just change the willow blade on them, but I did like this Megalo. It's a Jackal Megalo spinnerbait. They're kind of hard to find. You have to get them from Japan. I don't think there are any sold in the U.S., but there's some websites. If anybody's interested, I mean, I can probably find you them on because I did find some on some websites. But yeah,
I've got a few sites from back when I used to try to source tiny clashes before you could get them.
They missed a insanely good marketing opportunity by not calling that Megalodon. I don't know why. It's like. Anyway,
I think it's mega low spinnerbait, not Megalodon, but I keep calling it Megalodon.
Yeah, I know, right? It makes sense. Okay, 2 more questions, guys. Then we're gonna dial this back here. I know you guys could probably keep me here all night, but these poor gentlemen have like jobs and families.
I can talk about fishing all night.
I really could.
We ain't got kids. None of us are married.
Well, 2 of you work home with us, actually.
Gonna be doing tackle after. So I mean, as long
Well-
as you want to go.
Well, Phil, if you want, maybe hit me up and we could probably we'll go out on Friday. And then we got Hunter. Looks like he's having a great time in the back of the queue. We will bring on Hunter in a minute. Anyway, when tossing around a what?
Oh, I was just reading the comment.
Oh, sorry. When tossing around a glide, what type of areas do you throw it? Not specific areas, but what type of areas? Everywhere.
Yeah. If you got scope over top laydowns, big giant laydowns is really good. It's probably my favorite.
Yeah.
That brush piles, flats, bluff walls. I mean, you can really throw it everywhere. It's just, it depends on what type of structure the fish actually want to bite it on.
Yeah.
Interesting. We have a Patreon supporter that asks a very interesting question.
It also depends, like, what time of year it is, where they're staged at in regards to the spawn. Like right now, they're still kind of hanging more towards main lake. At least the bigger fish are, and that'll fluctuate with weather and moon patterns and all that good stuff.
There you have it. Guys, get all your questions in here soon. We'll probably be doing another live stream from the water here shortly. As long as I can get good cell service, we'll definitely be back on the res. I don't have family this weekend I have to deal with for Easter, I don't think, but I'll get yelled at probably.
I'll meet you guys out there on Friday. I'll see you out there.
Fish the glide over top submerged grass if you get the chance. That's really fun.
Let's see, tight lines. Okay, and then we got one more question here. How do I add my? All right, add this back to stage. Patreon supporter wants to know specifically. This is a weedless bull shad. If you've ever seen this bait before, how would you fish it?
That thing just came out. I've never thrown one.
Grass.
Sure.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
grass.
Yeah.
Bed.
Yeah. Rip that thing through.
It's funny because actually I've never seen that either, and I'm actually now interested in that because one of my favorite baits is the mini bull shad and bull gills, which is right here. Is like the mini bull gill. So I think they've now come out with looks like the soft version, weedless bull shad, which that's interesting.
All right, we're gonna give. I
it.
apologize, but we're gonna give this guy a little bit of love. He is homeless and he really needs attention. All right, Hunter, you're on right now. You got 30 seconds.
Hey everyone, just wanted to say hello. Wanted to jump on here. Follow HPS Fishing on Instagram and YouTube. And yeah, hope everyone has a great night.
Let's live stream the concert.
I'm at a Zach Bryan concert right now. Hope everyone's doing good.
Hunter, people want to know how many videos you're going to upload per year.
Per year, we're looking at three videos a year goal. Looking to top last year of one.
That is disturbing.
But yeah, three videos this year is the goal. We'll see if we surpass that. And we'll see if we go below that. Time will tell.
Oh man.
Oh, that was haunting. All right. Well, thank you, Hunter. That was fun.
Love you, boys.
Later.
Alrighty.
That's funny.
That was horrible. That was, terrifying as hell. I would be remiss in our closing thoughts. What did you guys think of the classic?
Mega Bass Vision 1 +1 for the win again.
Have you ever thought about throwing jerk baits that are not mega bass?
Nope.
Said nope.
Not once. No, I got a bunch of different jerk baits. There's a time and a place for each one, but they just bite that mega bass.
But then again, is it self-fulfilling prophecy of like you just fish it, therefore they will bite it?
I mean, I think a lucky craft or anything that you put in front of the right fish, they'll bite it. But I love how deep I can get the mega bass quickly, and they bite. All I can say is they bite it. That's it. I've caught so many fish where they just have it completely gone down in their throat, and there was zero hesitation. It's like a Rapala jerk bait or other jerk baits. Like they might follow it all the way to the boat, but I mean, and it's still a lower percentage of fish, but with that mega bass, I mean, you get it in front of them, and it usually doesn't take long.
How do you deal with them choking the bait down so far and not having to have a bunch of dead fish in your live well? Have you gotten that down?
Mountain Dew.
I've heard of that.
You laugh. I'm not joking, man.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Time where we were catching them so good on 8-inch mag draft, and it was automatic. They were getting a hook in the gill because it's just the hook's on the bottom, and it was a problem because you can't weigh in dead fish on fountainhead, which is an awesome rule in my opinion. But in a situation like that, like you need something to clot the blood, and as soon as you catch them, if you pop a bottle of Mountain Dew open and you pour it down their throat like a good amount, it will clot it and they live every time.
Yeah.
Mountain Dew, catch it. I mean, I'm not sure about like the G juice or anything, but I know catch and release will do it too. So, I mean, but Mountain Dew's been the best thing for it. I'm not sure if like any kind of carbonated drink would do the same thing, but.
So wouldn't Budweiser work then too? Because it's carbonated?
Liter, because my luck, I'll totally forget what the Mountain Dew was in the boat for, and I'll drink it all before.
And the hot.
Have you guys tried the new Berkeley Kredge jerkbait? I've been loving that on the live scope. You know what I'm talking about?
The reverse spy bait. That one. It's the reverse spy bait.
It's like the reverse jerk bait, whatever. The bill goes up, so when you jerk it, it goes up, but it also flutters and sinks down away from you. So every time you have it in front of the fish, you can kind of just like jerk it up, and then you'll see it on live scope just like flutter right back down in front of the fish. I've caught a couple on it so far. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I think it's the first sinking jerk bait that they've come out with.
It's a very unique design, and it's very niche. I think it's the interesting thing right now with all of the baits that are coming out, where you're getting very specific to forward-facing sonar techniques with, the different minnows. Now they're making rods that are forward-facing sonar specific. You're making the baits. What's funny when we look back in the history, how we're going to, this is a thing now, but then also like stupid little like hooks and weights for that. Like both are what's in play right now. It's kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
We have a fun question. I'm not against live scope, but imagine 5 years or less from now, live scope sunglasses, hands-free impossible, clear scope for species of fish and weight of fish when they start to cut back rule. Live scope's not going anywhere.
No, but to his point, it's like when is the line drawn? And I get it. I mean, you can do whatever the hell you want. I do not care. If you want to put live scope on a pair of glasses, I'm all for it. I'm totally against having any more than one transducer on your boat. But you can do whatever the hell you want, but that will be insane. Like if it gets to a point where you can specifically tell, I mean, I can tell you right now the difference between a striper and a largemouth for the most part. If it's a big striper, obviously, because you can see the size. But if it gets to that point where it's so specific as to like it shines a different color on a different fish or something like that, which I could totally see happening, like I'm good. No thanks.
The technology is already there. Marine biologists already have technology that.
I don't think they're not giving us what they have. They're just like everything else, like laptops, phones. They're just give you a little bit at a time. I mean, I'm sure they got the technology that tells you the species of fish and much clearer images and everything. It's all for money. They're just going to fade it all in through time. So, and live scope is definitely not going anywhere. Cool. Either get on the game or don't. So it's definitely not going anywhere.
They're just out right now how to make that technology into a more affordable platform that's applicable to bass boats. I would almost be willing to bet money that's what's going on right now at Garmin and Lowrance and Humminbird.
Yeah, I had an engineer on last year, and he talked about this, that the issue is power. We are getting to the point where we're hitting the absolute cap of how much power we have on a boat. Because if you guys remember in the chat, when having 4 batteries in the boat was amazing. And now we're looking at 6, 7, 8. Like, you could get more powerful units, but it's going to suck up way more juice. And I think that's going to be the real inhibitor when it comes to technological advancements is you're going to need more juice in your boat to power it. When it comes from the rules to limit it, I kind of agree with McCluskey. I think you should just say, like, okay, if you're in a professional organization, 2 graphs total, 1 at the council, 1 up front, 4 graphs, like that's what you need to limit more so than anything else, because then that would limit the transducers too, in my brain.
Yeah, I guess limiting graphs would go into limiting transducers, but I just like you just 1 transducer, because I don't care how many graphs you got on your boat. Side scan, mapping, and 2D is only going to get you so far. Like these guys and what people who are efficient with live scope do, they're seeing a single fish. Like you can only look at 1 screen at once, at one time, you know, like it's just, I don't know. But the screens thing, Brian Schmidt's boat, I assume most people saw the Chris Zaldane video where he went through everybody's boat and showed their setups and asked them how much they think it costs. He has 4 12-inch screens at the dash. That is a safety hazard.
It totally is.
Oh man.
Like they showed it in the video. They were measuring the height. We talked about this on the last Monday Night Live with the BFO guys, but like they're measuring the height of the graphs to make sure people can see over them. Like, get out of here. Like it's getting out of control, in my opinion.
It's getting cartoonish.
Yeah.
It's also a fun parody world we live in where these pros are running 1,000 graphs, $150,000 boat. Icon, aka IKEA, came out with $150,000 boat, and then they're complaining that the money's drying up in the industry. And it's like, is the money drying up, or are you guys just spending it all? Like it's
pricing out much. That's why so many people are pissed off, which I get about that. Like, I don't think it was live scope that was pricing you out. I think it was the boats. I think it was all the additional costs. I think it was everything else piling on top of it to fish these tournaments that's pricing everything. I think it was live scope. It was like, you know, what about 360? What about power poles? What about entry fees, all this extra stuff, rising boat prices that's following the truck industry, where they're like, oh, everybody buys off credit. We can just keep pricing them higher and higher each year, and they're still going to buy them because they're buying them on credit. So I don't know. It's if I was in charge of bass, what I would do, I would go back to the old. I'm almost positive this would work. You get a fleet of boats for each angler. Each one's rigged out the same. You get a live scope up front. You get 2 units in the back. Get your side scan, and Bass can sign big deals with these companies for the boat, for the units, all that.
It'll definitely even the playing field.
Yep.
Yeah. Angler gets to bring his tack, and they go to surprise lakes. Everybody's going to want to watch that. Everybody's going to love it. Bass will be able to do it way better than MLF tried to.
I was going to say, didn't your dad come up with this idea already?
Yeah, boy.
I think that's what we need right now, to bring everything back together to where everybody's semi-content. I think that's what needs to happen.
Brian Green.
Unfortunately, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not though. So
yeah, that's the shitty part.
That's just
Plex tried it. Yep, 100%. Andy, I'm fixing to change my live scope to an ice shuttle so I can go from boat to my kayak to my brother's 9.9. Oh, FLW. Yeah. Oh, yeah. FLW had it, but then like the Bassmaster Classic used to be that way too, where everyone was basically running the identical boats as well. Let's see, where was the last comment? I just lost that. I keep saying one more. It's a matter of time until someone cheats using. Everyone's gonna cheat. For God's sakes, people were shoving weights down a fish's throat. Like, everyone cheats. It's all gonna happen. Just it's human nature, baby.
I don't think cheating at the top.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I think Jacob Wheeler and DC are cheating. But is it cheating
Well,
or bending the
okay.
rules?
They're
Yeah. Out.
they're living in the gray area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like taking steroids. I mean,
I truly think that they're better than everybody with forward-facing sonar. I mean, that's why Jacob Wheeler is so dominant. I mean, they're better at shaking a minnow than everybody else. It's just what it was at the beginning of the season.
I think that they're better at shaking a minnow, but also Jacob Wheeler is an apprentice to Scott Martin, whose father was Roland Martin was big about getting information and having a house full of people that know what you're doing. So Scott did the same thing. And Jacob Wheeler does the exact same thing. He's mirroring it. I mean,
yeah, but there's also a difference in the finishes. If you look at Jacob Wheeler's last 4 years and Scott Martin's last 4 years, if Scott's rooming with the best, then why hasn't he won 5 BPT events?
Because there's something, I don't know if it was the last live or whatever, where it's like you hit a certain age and you just suck in fishing. I don't know who said that on this show or somewhere said that. Phil, was that you?
I definitely could have said it.
I thought it was somewhere, and guys, just let me know in the comment section when this gets re-uploaded, that it was like when you hit a certain age, like your performance really does drop until you hit Rick Clunn age, and then it bounces back. But it's something
Rick
interesting
Clunn-
here with that.
Animal.
Rick
What?
Clunn will die if he retired. He has to do this to stay alive at this point.
He actually talked about that on Mercer's podcast. He was like, yeah, I don't believe in retirement. He's like, that's when people die. And I agree with that 100%. I've seen it a million times in the blue collar field. Like, guys literally get out of the trades and they die like a year later because they're not doing anything. So their body just starts shutting down.
We got Shane. I just pissed off a whole age demographic. What age do you start sucking at fishing? I just want to be prepared. So the statistical thing here is they put all these. I think Jay Kumar did it. Bass Blaster. Go check that out. Where it's like when fishermen hit a certain age, you can start seeing their finishes really deteriorate. And you saw this with Kevin Van Dam when he was just dominating, and then he hit a rut, and then it took him a long time to kind of bounce back. My hypothesis is this. It's not necessarily the age correlation that you're too old to do it. I think you get so set in your ways in your, I don't know, let's say 30s and 40s as a professional angler that's been doing it for 20 years, that it's harder for you to adapt to new trends and things. I think that's actually what it is. It just correlates with the age part of it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. And then we got
I hear some guys at the bow ramp. I mean, they're kind of in the older years, and they're like, man, I can't keep up with these younger guys in these live scopes. So, I mean, they're
Bass Hunter's still getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
There was a meeting. Wasn't there a meeting at the first Fountainhead tournament about banning live scope?
There was going to be a vote. I heard there was going to be a vote, but they never ended up having it. I don't know. Maybe Matt knows more.
No, I didn't hear anything about it. I'm down for a vote, though.
Juan was asking me after the first tournament. He's like, "Hey, they didn't have a vote on the live scope." I said, "No, I didn't even hear about anything about that." So,
I mean, I've never had anybody, Mikey or anybody, like seriously correlated with the club.
I think there should be a vote. There should be a vote on the 6 fish thing. There should be a vote on that. I don't know if
I agree.
I don't think the majority really favors it.
Well, good thing this isn't about money. We just want to go there and have a good time. So
yeah, exactly.
It used to be about money when they were pulling 30 boats.
Well, why not raise the entry fees a little bit just to have better payback?
Just because it's not about the money. I mean, as much as it would be nice to. I mean, if you win, you're still going to get $400 to $600 each, which is nice for a John boat tournament. But it's just. The last two weekends I've driven back from Roanoke, which is 3.5 hours to my house to fish these tournaments. And even if I did win, gas money and all that travel shit, it wouldn't cover it. Like, we just fish these for fun. Like,
yeah, I hear what you're saying. We need to raise the entry fees to really help pay for McCluskey's mortgage. So if you guys find it in your hearts.
I mean, I'm basically fishing for fun too, because I know I'm handing my money away to McCluskey or Streichel or Alderman at this point. But yeah, it really is for fun. I enjoy it just as much as any others. So
Anybody can win on any given day. Like
True.
there's right now the lake is fishing so good, and there's so many 5 to 6 pounders biting. As like I said earlier, if you get that one key bite and you figure out what the deal is, you can go from 0 pounds to 30 pounds in an hour. So
Yeah.
it's
I mean, that's
anybody's
another
ball
reason
game.
and that's another reason I'm trying to compete with you guys is because I know that can happen. I know that I
That's a
can
good
do it
That's a good
eventually.
mindset to have, because a lot of people have come into the club and they get intimidated when they see 25 to 30 pounds if you even want to sniff a check, and they're like, yeah, I'm good on that. But
Yeah, no, it makes me want to do it even more. It makes me even want
that's
to
right.
want it more.
That's right.
Will, and this is the last question, I promise everyone in the chat, and then we'll actually be finished here. Will there ever be a 40-pound bag, you think,
Yes.
broken?
It's gonna happen.
On the res, yes.
For
All
six
Might
fish.
not be in
They
it.
need like two. They need like two 8-pounders, and yeah,
Two
I don't know.
8-pounders.
I think it can happen.
Everything else needs to be over 6.5 pounds, and you need two
Yeah.
8-pounders. It's just absolutely ridiculous, but it swims in the lake. So
That's so stupid, guys. God, it's so stupid.
I mean,
looking.
it could happen.
Oh, go for it, Phil.
I was just saying it could happen this spring. Like with I've never seen anything like what we've seen the past 2 weeks in a Virginia body of water. It's stupid.
It's the best lake in Virginia, or like one of them. If it's not the best, it's got to be top 5, right? I mean, I know everyone's probably got a sneaky lake, but I just meant in general, without naming names, it's top 5, right? You think?
Yep.
That's
yeah.
awesome. All right, guys. I want to make sure. I want to make sure we get everyone to bed. I really, really appreciate everyone coming on last minute like this. It's absolutely awesome. Ricky Folk, Sandy River's a good one. I'm going to be doing a Hidden Gems there as well. That's a banger. Hunting Run, I saw Hunting Run. Yeah, there was I think somebody just caught a 12-pounder out of there this past week. Yep. Someone just sent it to me. Yeah, so it's there's so many lakes like that are awesome.
That whole area around Sandy River and Briery's got them.
Yeah. Mechanicsville, Farmville, all the lakes in that area, those are like my favorite, like reservoir aside, really. I mean, but you're talking about bass that are also, they're like hybrid strain. You have Florida strain and Florida genetics in those lakes as well. So you got hybrid, you got Florida bass, and you got northern strain all mixed together. So, but the fishing is just phenomenal. Matt is completely right.
Guys, again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I mean, last thing, we'll go around. Yeah, I mean, Stephan, you first. Anyone you want to promote or anything like that you got coming up?
Not really. I mean, just shout out to all my good friends. You know who you are. You've been there for me throughout the years. Yeah, I mean, not really. I don't want to pick and choose anybody over the other, but you know who you are, guys. So I appreciate you there for being there for me.
Phil.
Shout out to Minn Kota 4-track specifically, Gambler Bass.
Coors Light.
Coors Light, Zen, Apple AirPods. And
shout out to you, Thomas, for having us on here, though, for real.
Nah, dude. I'm blessed to be near you.
Yeah, I couldn't do it without any of those fantastic entities.
Matt Allen.
Oh,
who, me? Yeah, thanks for having us on. I'm glad we could do this. It sucked it was a week late compared to it being fresh. We wanted to do it, but
also,
you guys will be there. You guys will be there in 2 weeks.
Yep, 2 weeks, baby.
Oh, are you gonna?
We missed you yesterday. Ahead. I was gonna say. Also, I meant to say on my YouTube channel, Nessumi Outdoors, I'm gonna be posting the weigh-ins of the Fountainhead Bass Club weigh-ins.
Nice.
Because I have both now recorded as well, including that club record being broken. So
Sick.
Guys, if you want to just check out my channel here in the next few days, I'm going to post it so you guys can watch the weigh-ins. And I also have footage of me and my partner catching fish as well. So it'll be cool. So stay tuned.
That's freaking awesome.
See some big fish.
And then, Matt, you also have a YouTube channel, right? Did you want to promote that?
No.
Got gills, right? Got gills.
Yeah, my partner does he posts videos and stuff. It's got gills, but he hasn't posted either of the tournaments from this year. But the most recent one was the old club record now from last year.
Who will post more videos this year? Got Gills or Hunter?
Got gills. 100%.
I think I'll videos than Hunter this year. And I don't have a camera yet.
Got-
I also got
Are you
some
gonna fish
amazing drone footage of the Occoquan Reservoir too on my channel if anybody wants to check out like the Bull Run area and that whole like upper lake and I think like episode 9 or something. So
Might have to.
True.
You coming to fish with me this weekend, Phil?
What are you trying to Sunday?
Yes, sir.
I can't do Sunday, man. That's big family.
Oh, I guess it is Easter.
Yeah. Otherwise, I absolutely would be hitting Moomong. I love that lake.
We're coming for you, Mooma. I've never been there, but there's tournaments there every Sunday.
And
Dude,
there's a chance I might come down.
Yeah, come fish it.
Gorgeous lake.
I don't know if you'll be able to live stream.
It's really tough. It's tough, but they're in there, and it's so not like it's probably the prettiest lake in Virginia that you'll fish.
Nice. It's 45 minutes from the Airbnb, so.
Oh, sick.
Oh yeah. But all right, boys, I'm gonna jet.
See you guys. Like and subscribe to the channel,
Later.
and we'll see you next time on Fishing the DMV. Bye.
All right.
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your hosts, Thomas Ahrens and Jared Mounts. Fishing the DMV